Hello everyone, Mythic here, and welcome back to another Lucium 3.0 update video. We've got a lot to cover in this video, going from the core system to the new rosters, the new kinds of ships, and some changes to Bolivar's 1.1, which is coming with 3.0, that we'll talk about shortly. So, without further ado, let's hop into the campaign and check out the core system. We'll be using the Austrian Empire as an example to underscore the differences that happen between the cultures and what a multicultural empire looks like. So the core is act effectively as cultures. Every single city and town on the map has a culture building, which is related to their unique culture in this area. So this is South Germany, Vienna being that. If we come down here to Trieste, it is also South German. However, if we go over to Zagreb, it is a South Slavic province. And moving over to Budapest, we'll see that it is Hungarian. So each one of these cultures can be accepted and cored. Every nation starts with an accepted culture, so that will be your main culture. So for instance, Austria starts off with South German, and I believe they also start off with Hungarian, but that changes during the Hungarian Revolution. And so as you can see, having South German accepted gives you these benefits: 5% public health, 5% public order due to law, and 5% bonus to happiness. And it also has a nice description over what this culture basically is. And so you can see the same for Hungarian, so that's a 10% culture bonus. However, for an unaccepted culture like South Slavic, until you accept that culture, you will have a -5 penalty to your happiness. Now, how to go about accepting these different cultures? So, there are a number of cultures per city, or per region. So, as you might know, the Yugoslav and Balkan area over here is going to be Southern Slavic. Now, to accept the culture, you need to control 80% of Southern Slavic towns. So say for instance you own all of the Balkans, you'll then get an option to accept South Slavic, which will give you the benefits from the South Slavic provinces. This can be applied anywhere across all provinces in the game. So, say if you're playing as Spain and you conquer France, then you'll be able to get French's accepted. There is no cap on how many cultures you can accept, but we've considered it in the past. Now, one thing that we've been talking about a lot in the Lucium Total War Discord server, link in description, you should join, is the removal of the country of Iraq, which was a country we were adding over here in, say, obviously, Iraq. It was going to be an Ottoman tributary. We've decided to replace Iraq with the Eyalet of Egypt. So, Eyalets in the Ottoman Empire were governed provinces by the Ottomans, but Egypt was a special case. Egypt was highly autonomous for its time, and actually ruled mostly by the Mamluk lords who held Constantinople in contempt. So yes, we have actually replaced the Iraqis with the Eyalet of Egypt, which will eventually allow for an Egyptian revolt and a number of very cool and interesting things to happen around the Egyptian area. This is their flag. Their roster has not been made yet, so at this point they're using Prine Baraka the Honest. I'm fairly certain that's supposed to say Prince, but maybe I'm wrong because he is the faction leader, so maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's all we have to mention about Egypt. Now, coming into the Barbary States, they've recently received their full roster, which we'll go over in a bit. And they've also received their custom boats. So the Barbary States have a custom set of boats made specifically for them so that they can rule the seas in a unique Corsair way. Unfortunately, it does lock them from the higher tier boats, so they'll never get steamships, they'll never get ironclads, but they can get up to first rates. And they also have cool boats, such as the War Galley, which is completely unique to them, the Light Galley, and the dev team's personal favorite, the Dhow. It is a powerful ship, the strongest ship on the sea. All fear the might of the Dhow and its powerful guns. But yes, the Barbary States starting position has been done, so this is how the Barbary States will look in campaign. It is still subject to change. We might change it depending on how the AI works, of course. If the Barbary States don't do anything, we are a little concerned about the splitting up of provinces, that this might cause issues for the AI, so we shall see how that goes. Now quickly, some of you might wonder why we've come back to France. So, we've had the French Revolution in since Lucium 1.1, or 1.0. But it hasn't been that good, and unfortunately now it's starting to look a little outdated in comparison to the rest of the mod. So, we're going to be reworking the French Revolution. There will be more details on that in the future, but we felt that it should be mentioned in this update video. And as we've said with a lot of this stuff, a lot of these changes you're seeing in Bolivar's 3.0 are going to be in Lucium Europe 3.0 are actually going to be in Bolivar's 2.0. So, we'll be going over that in the future. A lot of work on Bolivar's hasn't started yet, but we will be discussing a little bit on what you can expect in the Bolivar's 1.1 update, which should hopefully tide people over until we release Bolivar's 2.0. So, let's continue on to check out these new rosters that have been added for Wallachia-Moldavia and the Barbary States. Welcome everyone to the Wallachia-Moldavia roster. Now, fun fact, Wallachia-Moldavia actually hosts one of the biggest rosters in Lucium at the moment, I think tied with France and Austria. They have a lot of custom units because they're such a unique blend of cultures. At this time, Wallachia and Moldavia, which were not one country, were actually tributaries of the Ottomans, so they do have a little bit of the Ottoman influence in their armies, but they also have that Russian influence in their armies. They have a little Tatar in their armies, and they also have a little bit of Austrian influence in their armies, so they're a really unique country to play as. Now, starting off with the Eastern Home Guard Militia, that's pretty stock standard. Of course, we've got our Light Pikemen. These are Eastern Light Pikemen. We've got Bashi Bazooks, which are a Middle Eastern Ottoman unit. We've got our Slavic Light Pikemen, which are also just currently in Lucium. We have Common Musketeers, and then continuing on from Common Musketeers, we actually have the Tatar Contingent, which is a unit that a lot of countries around the Black Sea have, but it's a very good, middle-tier unit. Continuing on, we have Moldovan Line Infantry. And then continuing even more on, we have Romanian Brigades. We also have our European Bayonet Militia. These guys are complete crap, and, they're just here. Then we have Romanian Line Infantry. We then, continuing on, have Transylvanian Bayonet Militia. Even further, we have Wallachian Guard. And continuing on to our unique cavalry, we have Wallachian Light Cavalry. Now, the inspiration for this was, of course, Dracula, who was very famous for using his light cavalry for hit-and-run tactics against the Ottomans, and so he figured that, maybe their cavalry tradition had continued on a little further in the Lucium cinematic universe. We have some Russo Light Cav. Even further this way, we have Romanian Staff Cavalry. Everyone has that, of course. We have Bucharest Heavy Cuirassiers, which is actually the first cuirassier unit in Lucium, but I think that's going to change, and when I say I think, I mean I know because I am working on the rosters. Continuing on, we have our standard Musketeers, Mounted Pistoliers, and, of course, then our Dragoons. So, this is the Wallachian roster. Let's go check the Barbary States out. Welcome, everyone, to the Barbary States roster. Now, the Barbary States roster is what we in the professional community like to refer to as a little bit scuffed. But I would also like to point out that it is better and bigger than the Empire Total War Barbary States roster, so take that as you will. Starting off with our basic unit, we have Corsair Swordsmen. These are basically Muslim pirates for the Corsair States. The Barbary States were Corsair States. We have our Bashi Bazooks, Lucium favorite unit. We have our Pasha's Guard. And then continuing on, we have Italian Mercenary Pikemen, because the Barbary States were famous for recruiting mercenaries from Italy, Spain, and France. Then we have our Corsair Pikemen. They are what they are. Following up, we have another pike unit. These are the Portuguese Profiteer Pikemen, one of my personal favorite units, just because it sounds funny and I like alliteration. Then we have our Corsair Bowmen, and then continuing on, we have the African Gunner unit, which is pretty stock standard. Continuing even further, we have Barbary Foot, which is a shared unit with Morocco. Then we have Spanish Privateers, and of course these Spanish Privateers are mercenaries coming from Spain. Obviously they are Spanish. We have our Tunisian Royal Guard. We also have Muslim Grenadiers, and even further this way we have Berber Light Camels. And then even further down this way we have Moroccan Light Cavalry, obviously shared with Morocco. Then we have the North African Staff Cavalry. And continuing even further down, we have our Berber Hussar Cavalry. And these guys are a unique unit, but they're going to be added to Morocco too. And we have our Camel Dragoons. And this has been the Barbary States roster. A lot of its focus isn't actually on missiles. It's a very big melee faction. But that is actually not entirely historically inaccurate. As crazy as it seems, the Barbary States were quite technologically backwards. And they did rely on pikeman units and melee into the later 1700s. But let's talk a little bit more about what you're going to be able to see in Bolivar's 1.1. Now, to go over a few changes that have occurred in Bolivar's 1.1, this isn't all of them, but you'll be able to see that. These are going to happen in the 3.0 release, so you'll be able to have both of these new versions. Now, one of the main things you'll notice is our glorious new splash image, both for 3.0 and for Bolivar's. But they are separate, they're different images, as you might have seen if you're in the Lucium Discord server. Again, I reiterate, you must join. It is highly imperative. But we've changed the splash image. We've also changed the background. The menu background is much better in Bolivar's now, I might add. But continuing on, one thing we've done, which is a recruitment rework. So basically, recruitment started with the basic farmer militia tier. And with farmer militia, then to volunteers, and then the slow population growth, it meant that most people weren't getting to their mid-tier 18th century or 19th century units, which was actually quite a shame because a lot of people were missing the great parts of the rosters in Bolivars. They were only seeing volunteer infantry and farmer militia. So what we've done is we've removed farmer militia from the majority of recruitment areas and made them only recruitable in fortifications. So actually, for the most part, you'll be starting recruitment with just volunteer infantry, which should hopefully allow people to move into the mid-tier a lot sooner and keep, spam armies from just being volunteers and mostly farmer militia. We'll also be changing the menu to look a little more like the Lucium 3.0 menu. And we'll also be changing the unit cards, of course, to have basically their frames around it, as we have in Lucium 3.0. As you might have noticed, we have those nice frames. Those will also be in Bolivar's 3.0. Or Bolivar's 1.1. Geez, Bolivar's 3.0 is a long way off. If ever. Anyway, guys, that is it for the Lucium 3.0 update video. Thank you all for coming out. Remember to join our Discord server. Remember to subscribe to our channel. And we would also like to say a thank you for our 100 subscribers. We, of course, haven't made an actual video thanking everyone for this subscriber milestone, but we would like to thank everyone for it. It means a lot to us to have so much support on our YouTube channel, and basically for the mod in general. Thank you all for staying with the mod team as we work through these 3.0 development months, and Bolivar's Lucium 3.0 is not as far off as it seems. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Mythic out.